Proponents of this legislation say that it actually makes the stablecoin market safer. It requires that a stablecoin is backed dollar for dollar by high-quality assets. Why do you not see that it works that way?
Well, what you have is a system designed to be a payment system for those who want cryptocurrency, that is to say, hidden money. We already have money market funds. They're well regulated. They have assets behind them, and they pay about a 4% return. This Genius Act creates a new money market fund. They call it a stablecoin. And under the law, it can pay 0% interest. That's all it can pay is 0% interest. So why would any genius invest in that? And the answer is the one advantage it has. It's right there in the name cryptocurrency, which means hidden money. And that is these stable coins are exempt from the Know Your Customer anti-money laundering provisions. So look, anybody engaged in honest business who's paying their taxes will want to get that 4% rate of return available from any of the money market funds that are out there. But if you're engaged in crime, tax evasion, or you're hiding assets from your former spouse, you give up that 4%. And this is a system designed to provide those folks with an efficient payment system. I don't think drug dealers deserve an efficient payment and monetary system.
But, Congressman, the administration clearly made the case to many of your colleagues on both the Genius Act, but also the Clarity Act. 78 Democrats ended up voting for that bill. Are you disappointed with your colleagues that ended up getting on board with this?
Well, you got to remember, most of my colleagues haven't spent near as much time as I have studying this issue. But they're all aware that this is the biggest corrupting industry ever in the history of politics. You know, people are aware of these super PACs for big oil or big pharma. You can take all of big oil, all of big pharma, put them together, multiply by 5, and you still don't have the amount of money that the super PACs for crypto put in last year. So all of my colleagues are experts in politics. That's why they're here. Most of them are not, have really not spent a lot of time wondering how the payment system and the currency system affects our country. And so it's not surprising that crypto was able to get a lot of votes. I mean, the amount of money we're talking here, I mean, people think about money in politics all the time, but this amount of money is absolutely unprecedented, and there's no pressure on the other side. On so many of the issues we face in Congress, there's a PAC on this side and a PAC on that side, and they're both pushing. There is no PAC or lobbyist pushing for effective income tax law enforcement, pushing for effective crackdowns on drug kingpins, or trying to enforce our sanctions laws. All of these things are undermined by what happened yesterday, and there's no lobbyist informing people of the damage that this will do.
Well, Congressman, I know you're speaking specifically about your colleagues in the House of Representatives, but I also wonder if you've had any conversations with Democrats in the Senate, which, of course, will receive the Clarity Act specifically next. Are you expecting that kind of bipartisan support will materialize in the other chamber?
There's a lot of money from the super PACs of the crypto industry, absolutely unprecedented, beyond anything anyone in Washington has ever imagined. And I think that we may get some improvement in the Clarity Act, but I'm not predicting that we're going to be able to defeat it. And keep in mind that the proponents of these things say that they're all for innovation and efficient payment systems. The third bill that we passed yesterday as part of this package prohibits even the study of a central bank digital currency. So when it comes to the dollar, their position is it must only be George Washington level technology, even though the Constitution says the federal government is supposed to create currency. They say yes, but only with 1776 technology. But the competitor to the dollar, the stablecoin and the cryptocurrency, can use 21st century technology. That means that the proponents of these bills aren't for innovation. They're not for free choice. They're only for innovation and free choice when you're forced to choose to make the crypto bros a lot more money. And that, of course, includes Donald Trump.
Congressman, you're on House Financial Services, which, of course, has partial oversight when it comes to the Federal Reserve. And we want to get your opinion here when it comes to the future of the Fed chair. But first, I'm just wondering what you make of the administration's argument for lower rate cuts as they do point to recent economic data.
Every administration wants somewhat lower interest rates. I think that Trump may be making a political mistake, although I don't think that he will get the lower interest rates for political reasons. We may see lower interest rates, but they'll be based on data. And that's because those who argue that we shouldn't lower interest rates claim that it would increase inflation. And I think Trump will be judged next year based on the price of everything we buy. I think what he's doing is he won't get the lower interest rates that he keeps demanding, and then he'll turn to the American people next year and say, well, the economy sucks, but it's not my fault. The fact is that he will replace Powell for a reason that you may not be able to focus on or haven't focused on yet, and that is under these bills, there can be a bailout of crypto companies only by the Fed. And Jay Powell has made it clear he's not going to bail out crypto, but you can be sure the next guy will.
Well, when we consider the next guy, Congressman, we understand on that short list could include the likes of the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, the National Economic Council Director, Kevin Hassett. Would either of those be credible choices to you, given they already serve in this administration and are close to the president?
Well, first, they have stood by and watched the president put pressure on the Fed and cross the line, and they haven't said anything about it. An independent central bank is critical to every important country. And what we've seen in Turkey and some other places where the government pressures the central bank is that it may achieve short-term political advantage for whichever political party, but it's terrible for their economy. The second thing, and I hope they get quizzed on this, is whether they would use Section 13.3 of the Federal Reserve Act to bail out crypto companies. And my guess is that Trump won't appoint anybody where he doesn't think the answer is yes. But I'm not sure they'll go on the record and say that that's what they're willing to do.
Congressman, I want to ask you about something else that made headlines this week, which is, of course, the passage of the Recisions package, because it's our understanding that this is actually going to be the first of perhaps a few coming from the administration. Now, Congress, of course, controls the appropriations process. In your view, is Congress giving up the power of the purse here, or is this how governing goes when Republicans control both chambers? And perhaps it could be the other way around if the majorities were flipped.
Well, first, you've got to look at the substance. Some 3.3 million people are going to die as a result of the cuts in American foreign aid, particularly food and medicine. And the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, used many months of his time to take food and medicine away from the poorest people in the world. As to the methodology, Republicans are not in complete control here in Washington because some things require 60 votes in the Senate. But the rescissions process allows them to do this with only 50 votes in the Senate. And that is why both NPR, PBS, and our foreign aid program were gutted yesterday. What we have to do, and I think we may be headed for a government shutdown, because I think Democrats will insist that if we're going to pass new spending bills by September 30th, they can't be subject to this rescission, because they need 7 Democrats to vote to fund the government by September 30th, or the government shuts down. So they'll get those 7 by saying, here's the package, and then they'll use rescission to take away those elements of the package that Democrats find most important. So whatever bill we vote on in September that needs 60 votes in the Senate to pass the bill, we've got to provide that it takes 60 votes in the Senate to change the bill afterwards. Otherwise, we will be fooled.
Well, your point is understood that Republicans don't completely control Washington, but they do for now, Congressman, of course, have control of the House of Representatives. And President Trump is suggesting to make sure it stays that way post-midterms in 2026, that Texas should do some redistricting. And this is actually going to be something that is explored in a special legislative session in that state beginning on Monday. This is what the president said about that earlier this week.
5, I think we get 5. And there could be some other states. We're going to get another 3 or 4 or 5 in addition. Texas would be the biggest one, and that'll be fine. Just a very simple redrawing. We pick up 5 seats. But we have a couple of other states where we'll pick up seats also.
And Congressman, in response, your governor in California, Gavin Newsom, takes to X and says Trump says he's going to steal 5 congressional seats in Texas and gerrymander his way into a 2026 win. Well, 2 can play that game. Special sessions, special elections, ballot initiatives, new laws. It's all on the table when democracy is on the line. The governor is suggesting California do some redistricting of its own. Congressman, would you support that effort?
I don't think either side should be playing games. I think gerrymandering is something voters hate, and it certainly isn't democracy. That being said, if one side is playing games and the other side isn't, that can be even worse. So if we're going to have gerrymandering in Texas, which we shouldn't, then we may need it in California as well. For a long time, I've supported legislation to have independent commissions do the redistricting without partisanship in all 50 states. And that would be the real solution. But in the absence of that, we can't sit by and watch the president say, this has nothing to do with fair redistricting or legitimate democracy. We're going to contort things in Texas in order to get the outcome we want. And certainly those who supported democracy in our country should not be enamored of Donald Trump.